The electrification of the transport sector or electric mobility is not a new concept. It has been in the talking point for several years. However, with the present crisis, the fuel crisis, the energy crisis has given rise to an emerging emphasis on electric mobility as a solution to this crisis, not only for the transport sector but also for the energy crisis. However, this electric mobility represents a transformational change in the system, not just putting an electric vehicle onto the road. So therefore, it's very important to understand the broader implication of electric mobility in the socio-economic context in a country. So therefore, we need a more detailed, comprehensive understanding of the problem as well as the solution to shape our electric mobility transition. So this transition in the transport sector to electric mobility is not an isolated intervention. It has come up as a solution to broader global crisis, the energy crisis, and also the need for sustainable development, which indicate that in a global context, the system transition across all the sectors, the economy, the society, is a mandatory requirement in all the sectors, including energy, transport, society, etc. So therefore, this transformational change is required to introduce electric vehicle onto the road as a part of electric mobility transition. So such a transition also demands for a more comprehensive assessment or comprehensive solution framework. In the transport sector, it has been emphasized that this hierarchical strategic approach of avoid, shift and improve concept, what we call ASI approach, is the most effective way of introducing these concepts. So in that context, what it means that avoidance of unnecessary transport or achieving transport needs without moving or without having without need for moving, followed by shifting into more efficient transport modes. For example, from individual vehicle to public transport or non-motorized transport become the priority. Followed by, when we have that type of a shift, we can also think about improving the technology or the other technical aspect within the transport mode, which in fact reflect shifting the technologies as well as the improvement in the existing transport systems and services. So electric mobility become a solution in that context, meaning that first we have to avoid unnecessary transport and then move into the public transport, then frame our electric mobility transition within this solution. So that gives us to a critical question that which type of transport mode we need to electrify. So we have different options. One option is basically conversion of existing vehicles into electric, or other option is introduction of new electric vehicles. Even with that one, which vehicle category we need that introduction, whether it's individual vehicles, cars, three-wheelers or bicycle, or whether electrifying buses or rail, public transport. So that type of decisions are critical in formulating our electric mobility roadmap. So in that context, the introduction of electric vehicles or electric mobility transition also requires essentially the assessment of broader impact of that transition in the economy and the society. How these changes contribute to the need of transport, particularly in the context of sustainable development, is fundamentally its requirement is that we need affordable, accessible, environmentally sustainable transport systems. So there are many other attributes we expect. So therefore, we need to understand these attributes and assess this transition, electric vehicle introduction, its contribution to the broader socio-economic gains in the country. So in that context, such a assessment also need to capture the country context, because of these type of global frameworks present a generic approach, but the particular solution depend upon the country priorities and circumstances. So in that context, Sri Lanka is not oil producing country, and also we don't have a vehicle manufacturing industry, and we have a particular transport system at present. So in that context, how the electric mobility transition should be shaped need to be carefully formulated. So as explained, this electric mobility transition are governed by the global targets or challenges, in particular the climate action, that the target for this carbon neutrality as put forward by Paris Agreement on climate change, as well as other important aspects, including the Sustainable Development Goals. So there it indicate as a target to reach carbon neutrality by 2050, while emphasizing the importance of resilience or adaptation of countries like Sri Lanka to these changes, as well as reaching broader sustainable development goals. So in respect to that, the vehicle industry, they have framed their development pathway targeting the long-term roadmap for the transition. So in that context, Sri Lanka also has to look into this global aspects, but while also emphasizing the need for localization, because these, the particular solution are heavily determined by the local context. It's not just following the global solution. So in that context, it's very paramount that our electric mobility transition take into all these different elements, the society, the economy, and the environment together, and frame a roadmap that deliver the best outcome toward the sustainable development goals.